Hey guys, welcome back to the shack. Today I'm going to be looking at a machine that I haven't found a whole lot of information about. It's manufactured by a company that I am familiar with, Genmitsu, the Sainsmart Genmitsu line of machines. I have currently got two CNC machines that they make. I've got the 4040 Pro as well as the 3030 Pro Ver. And both those machines have performed really well and done me a good job. I've turned out a lot of different products on those CNCs. So when Sainsmart reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to try out the new laser, which is this L8 version here, I figured, what the heck? I mean, might as well. So what we've got today is a 20 watt, fully enclosed. It comes out of the box, pretty much ready to run. And it's a 20 watt blue diode, complete with fan, camera, honeycomb, everything you need. So there's some things that I want to point out about the machine, and then we'll go over some of the results that I've had in my testing for the past few days and talk about that. So if that's something you're into, stick around and we'll be right back. All right guys, so as you can see with this machine, I've got all the cable and everything disconnected from it right now because I want to show you a few features. You can see now it's in its elevated form, and this machine, unlike a lot of them, it has these little legs that can flip up or down to raise the machine or lower it. Right here across the front, these are all of your connections. There's no connectors or anything around back except for the air exhaust. It does come with an e-stop button. It has the capability of using a key, but the one thing I do like about this one is if you don't plan on using the key, you can put it in the on position, take the key out and store it, and you don't have to worry about that key sitting there, you know, just asking to be broken. It does have a nice little sleek power button here, and you have the air assist. This is a variable speed, and they've got it marked for engraving or cutting speeds there. You've got the connector for the camera, SD card location, Type C USB, power output to the air assist, and then the air assist input from the pump. So it's pretty basic on the front. You will notice on the inside it does have the camera already installed, ready to go. Also has a 3-inch fan in the back. The gantry has got several limit switches on the gantry. The machine's really sturdy. The Z-axis has no slack in it to be concerned with. All of the limit switches are these little, more or less buttons, little dot-like button switches. So you don't have that little metal piece that's going to break off if you bump it. That's pretty nice. They also use that same little button for the safety switch on the cover here. Now, one thing that you will notice, the bulk of the enclosure is made out of a thinner acrylic, so that's something that you're going to want to be mindful of. You're not going to want to set anything real heavy up here on top of the machine, nor do you want to allow your cats to jump from a high location and land here, because it will crack the acrylic on the back right here where these little screw holes are, and I speak from experience. So if you have a large cat that jumps and lands here, it can cause cracks in the acrylic, so just keep that in mind. But in order to go from where it is currently in its elevated position back down to standard, all you got to do is lift it up and just flip these little feet. And when you flip the feet under, it'll allow it to sit all the way down. And you simply just do that from the back, do that from the front. And now the machine is in its lower, more compact position. Now, the honeycomb, because they do kind of have this honeycomb trapped in here in a sense, it can be a bit of a challenge. This is the honeycomb that ships with the machine. It has this cool little magnetic piece here that basically what that does is it's got notches that you can align it with the edges of the honeycomb and then use the magnets to hold it in place. Now, you can still slide this thing if you're not careful. So if you're going to be using that and it's something real critical, you might want to put you some blue painter's tape or maybe some more magnets just to kind of keep this thing from sliding. But it works pretty well for, being able to index things and use it kind of like a jig. The only downside, they did attach the back panel to the honeycomb. It makes it sturdy, but you get those little pieces in there, you kind of have to, you know, burp it to get those out. So that, I'm not sure I'm crazy about that, but no big deal. It is a really nice honeycomb. So the simplest way I have found to put the honeycomb in here, and this is basically the assembly that you're gonna have to do, guys, because it comes in the box already put together for the most part. I think the module, may have had to put the module on there, but that's it. So I just slide it in from the front right here, and there's these two pieces of acrylic right there, and just use those as a guide to slide it from the front toward the back. Now, you've got these little springs right here that you may have to, like this one here, I'm gonna have to press it in a little bit to get it to go past it. But those are what helps hold it in place once you get it in there. And they're pretty stocky, so you're gonna have to bear down a little. And then once you get this slid in there, it slides all the way back until it hits that back little piece of really hard acrylic or whatever that is, and that holds it in place. Just kind of press down here and everything snaps in. You can come in through the front, but it's a little cumbersome. I've found that it's easier to come in through the bottom and just do it just like that. And then of course you can push this thing all the way to the top to get it out of the way, but leave it there for accessibility. The one thing that I will say is currently they don't offer a chuck on their website, but there is this little plug right here on the front that says roller. So I know that is something to come. And it also looks very similar to the plug used on a lot of other machines. So if you have a roller or chuck already, you could use it here. But cable management, as you can see, they did a really good job with that. No complaints there. The fan that's included is a 3-inch fan. So if you're going to be going any length with the exhaust, you may want to look at adding an inline fan. But other than that, guys, the interior, the machine itself, the construction of the axis, the cable management on the axis, it uses the wheels with these little slots right here, and then the front face of the gantry just kind of is flat. So it's not your traditional 2020 extrusions or anything like that, but it's very sturdy and so far very solid, is resistant to twisting or turning, and has showed me some pretty good results. So I'm gonna move over here and just kind of show you some of the things that I found with the machine as far as its cutting ability. All right, guys, so as far as the machine goes, this is the 20-watt version. They sell the 20-watt and a 40-watt on their, according to their website. The price tag on this guy is like $9.99, which, considering that you're getting basically everything you need to start making stuff, it's not a bad deal, especially for a fully enclosed machine with a functional camera. The way that the honeycomb acts as a jig and everything already installed, that's a pretty good deal. So from my results so far, before you have to sit through the entire video, people have asked me about these machines and what do you think about it? And so far, for an entry-level machine with really good performance and durability so far in like a weeks of testing, it's done a really good job. Early on, I will tell you this, there was some issues with the firmware, and I reached out to Sainsmart and told them what the problem I was having, sent them some copies of the G-code and everything, and they came back with a patch for the firmware. Well, that patch corrected the issues that I was having, and it's running like a champ now with no issues. With this being a relatively new machine, and you can search it, there's not a whole lot of videos out there other than the ones that Genmitsu has done. It's not uncommon to find those little bugs that are easily fixed with software, and there probably will be more to come, but currently I can't find any more bugs or gremlins in the machine. This is some of the results that I've had. As you know, when I get these machines, I do a lot of testing for accuracy and consistency, especially since I didn't put this machine together. It came basically pre-assembled in a box packed in foam. So one of the things that I wanted to do was just to check the belt tension by doing a little simple evenly spaced circles and squares to make sure that it wasn't cross-stepping on me and causing any major issues. And if a machine has really loose belts or has any kind of slop in the axis, this will tell for sure. Now, there's some little tiny variations on some of these designs, but guys, that happens with any of these machines. These are hobby grade machines, and considering that that center circle is only a millimeter or two circle, I think it done really, really well, as well as any other machine that I've got in the shop. So the second thing that I wanted to do is, this is my 10 pass cut that I do, and it's basically just a line, and it's 10 boxes nested inside each other, the same height but with different width. And the object is to see if the machine crosses the same path every time as it's making those boxes. And of course it did, and in 10 passes it even was able to come through the back of the material and made 2 lines coming out the back. So once it passed the test for the belt tension and all that, didn't need any repairs or adjustments or anything like that, I took some of the materials that they sent with the machine, and this is a pretty common material for some of you guys. I don't use a whole lot of it, but it's basswood, okay? This is 3mm sheets of basswood that came with the machine. Did a little power and speed test on there, and got a wide range of colors, from the really dark darks in the bottom to the kind of browns up in the top. And guys, it's marking all the way up to 300mm a second, and if you pay close attention, you can hardly, I mean, I can't see any lines in the engrave as far as the dot size is doing a really good job. You don't have any of those lateral marks that you can see tips with some machines. So engraving basswood, that's, you know, no big feat, but I decided that I would also try to do some cutting with the basswood that they sent me. And guys, I ran my 20-watt cut test and on this stuff, and because I don't usually cut 3mm basswood, it's just blasting through it at like 15mm a second. And so I just quit after that. I'm like, okay, 15mm a second, it obviously does it. So it's probably gonna be closer to 20mm a second for the basswood, but I didn't have any extra. So I had done run too many test passes on here. Did play with the focus. You'll notice some of the scorching's a little different. I played around with the focus to see if that made any difference in the cut. And it didn't really make that big of a difference with the 3mm material. Now, what I do commonly use a lot of is the 4.5mm Luan. It's a really cheap plywood that I can get locally for like $15 to $18 a sheet for a 4x8 sheet. And it's what I make a lot of my projects out of. And so I run a cut test on it as well. And unfortunately, my 20-watt cut test is capped out at 10mm a second, and it exceeded that. So it is definitely exceeding the speeds that I typically get with a 20-watt machine. Most of the time, even with the 30-watt machines, I don't go much over about 9mm a second. With the 20 watts, you're looking at anywhere between 6 and 8 if it's a good day. So it is outperforming most 20-watt machines that you'll see. And I have seen that recently with some of the newer released machines. They have done some tweaking with the way that the laser works. And so even though it's rated at 20 watts, it's cutting a lot better than what, 6 months ago would have been considered a 20-watt. So then I broke out some more Luan. This is some 3mm Luan, and I went ahead and stepped it up and did a 30-watt or 40-watt speed test on this one, and wound up finding that I got some really good drops all the way up to about 14mm a second. And this is some pretty hard material, but it's only 3mm thick. And like I said, I'm still getting some pretty good staining because at this point, I'm still playing with the balance between the air assist and the focus. So that's something that you're always gonna have to work out with every new machine. So even with some of this is some really hard material. I mean, this stuff, I got this on accident, and it's really, really hard on any machine. So I decided, you know what, I'll throw some of this at it and see how the machine does. So as you can see here, it took all the way down to like 6mm a second to get really consistent results, but even up at 8mm a second, it's cutting the stuff, getting clean drops. And a lot of the ones that it didn't cut all the way through, it did a really good job, but this stuff is multi-layered and really, really hard. And on that same material, I did an engrave test, and once again, pretty good range of color, but because of the hardness of this material, it does kind of go from a brown to a really, really faded color here at the top, but you got some dark darks all the way up to the really lights. And that's peaking out at about 300mm a second. This machine will definitely move faster than the 300 millimeters a second, but guys, realistically, I have found very few machines in the 20-watt range that's going to do a whole lot of engraving or discoloring if you get too far past 300 millimeters a second. So that's kind of why, that's where I cap out my speed and power tests for the most part. All right, so while I had the machine on the table, guys, and I was trying to run the machine as much as possible in the 3 or 4 days, just to confirm that there wasn't any more bugs with the firmware and that everything was working well. And I've cut out all kinds of little projects and engraved them various speeds and shapes. I did some real fine detail with it as far as like cutouts, because I'm dropping stuff, guys. A lot of folks know that the thinner materials is typically going to be with a problem where diodes struggle, because you have overburn, heavy charring, and that type of thing. But so far, the machine is not having any issues with that. I did drop one of my little musical instruments, musical notes I did, but luckily for me, guys, I got 2 more. So I did a lot of these little intricate cuts just to see how it fared. And even on the back, I'm getting nice clean edges, no overburning or anything like that. Made myself a baseball. I was desperate, guys. I was running out of things to cut. Image quality, I burned the 1984 Clack Shack, circa 1984. Guys, look at that young man right there. But really good detail with photos. I will say this was pretty impressive, especially on this Luan. This is that cheap Luan that I buy, and you can see the shading on the clothing and everything there. Turned out really nice. And that was like the first attempt, just using the speed and power test as kind of a reference and picking out my powers on there. I did a couple of early on, did a couple of little logos, just trying to see how I could engrave. And I also wrote the speed down on the back, guys. See the color on that? I mean, that's not a bad color. Look at that speed. 400 millimeters a second. So even all the way up to 400 millimeters a second, it's still even that kind of almost a painted look. It's not, I wouldn't call it an engrave. It just makes it look painted. The surface is still smooth, but it has discolored it and given that golden color to it. So all the way up to 400, no complaints there. Made myself a little camper with the machine. Tractor. Tractor turned out well. My file was, the name of the John Deere was backwards. I don't know how that happened, but somewhere in the file software. And I did my bass fish, guys. Look at the detail. All right, pretty good. I mean, really fine detail with this machine. I have not sanded this or anything. This is straight off of the machine, and you can look at the back as well. I was a little concerned I was going to have a lot of, staining and stuff on the back with the way the honeycombs kind of sealed up, but it surprised me on that and did not. And also I made a keychain. So lots of little small projects with the machine, and since the firmware update, I have had 0 issues. Now, the first day or so before the firmware, guys, it was a little rough. So if you get one, I repeat, make sure you have the most current version of the firmware, because with all machines, as they release them and they find problems, there will be patches correcting those issues, and there's no need to drive yourself crazy trying to fix an issue that's already been fixed, but you didn't know about it because you didn't get the latest firmware. So just make a note of that with any machine. All right, on the computer, I'm just going to launch Lightburn. And the setup of the machine is pretty easy, guys. When you first get it, if you'll just go into Lightburn and hit Find My Machine, it will find it relatively easy. One suggestion that I will make is when you do that, make sure you don't have any other machines hooked up, just in case. Keeps it a little less confusing if you have multiple machines. Selected the RGB camera, and since the firmware patch, this camera's gotten a lot more responsive. I'm going to update the overlay. With the machine in the home position, this is something you're going to have to look at, is your cabling and stuff gets in the way. So when you home it, all right, cabling's still kind of in the way. One thing that I've done to overcome that is I have a park location, and I just send it to the park location, and you can watch the machine goes to the very back. Once it does that, guys, it is completely out of the work area, and there's nothing in your way. So just a little thing you might want to try. So one unique feature about this machine is as it's burning, if you were to open the enclosure, the machine will pause and it stops all action. The laser diode goes off as well as movement. And when you close the door back, now the job resumes automatically. You don't have to hit a button, you don't have to click anything, you don't have to start the job over. Your material isn't wasted. You can simply open the door, cuts off, close the door back, and it continues. That is one thing that a lot of other manufacturers have not done. You either have to start the job over or the machine will continue to move, but the laser module will turn off, which can cause an incomplete job and you have to start over on the job. So this is a very interesting, cool feature that they've made possible by using the safety switch. So even though I stopped and started it 2 or 3 times during that job by opening and closing the door, the cut's complete. So that's pretty impressive that they can do that and it doesn't leave a snag or anything in the material. So I just thought I'd share that with you guys. All right guys, well that's pretty much it for my overall quick overview of the machine. As always guys, I've been testing this machine for about a week. I've done a lot of work with it. I've used it on a lot of jobs, but as always, you know, don't take everything on the video to be that every machine is going to perform that way. There's always those machines that don't. You have, you know, just like with cars, sometimes things will break unexpectedly. But so far, all things considered, the build, the price, the size of the work area, the output of the module, the support that I got from Sainsmart when I first got it, I did have those issues. They fixed the firmware, updated the firmware. Because I know this is a new machine, guys. This is not like they've been doing this machine for a year. It's a brand new machine. There will be bugs in the beginning, but I think they've got the majority of those worked out now with the firmware version that I'm running, and probably more improvements to come. Like I said, currently it does not have a roller setup designed specifically for this machine, but it does have a very common plug, and it wouldn't be that big of a deal with Lightburn to be able to use any other brand of chuck or roller with the machine if you chose. But all in all, guys, if you're new to laser engraving and you want to get into a machine and you got a small budget, because let's face it, guys, not everybody's got a $2,000 to $3,000 budget. So if you've got a $1,000 to $1,200 budget, this might be your go-to. There are other machines on the market that have, you know, higher technology and, you know, different quality builds and so forth, but they also come at a higher price. So I think this machine fits in really well. I think it'll do a really good job with beginners just getting into the hobby that want a machine that's capable, safe, easy to use, and basically has a lot of the same features as some of the more higher priced machines. The two things that I will say kind of make this machine shine, in my opinion, are it has followed suit with some of the other companies and has made the honeycomb bed stationary so that it makes it easy for jigging and repeatability. The second thing that is really an advance is the fact that when you open the enclosure, it pauses rather than stop the job or doing anything detrimental to the burn that you have running. I think those were two really, really good things that Genmitsu, Sainsmart integrated into the machine. But for the money, guys, give it a look. There'll be links down below if you want to go look at it. Look at this. Look at the technical specifications of the machine as well as availability. Because with all new machines, guys, there may be a little bit of a backlog on getting these machines out. So before you order, make sure you check and see what the availability is, and just be prepared for the wait if there is one. But until next time, guys, I hope this was helpful. If it was, give me a thumbs up, hit the button down below. If you haven't subscribed, please do that already. And until next time, be safe and have a good day.